Shabbat Shalom. I'm passing out some words of a song that we're going to sing at the end of my words today. I underestimated the attendance, so you'll have to share if that's okay. So for those who are here every week at Sha'arei Kodesh, welcome. If you haven't been since the high holidays, welcome. If you're a sacred guest, if you've never been here today, welcome. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I want to begin by sharing with you a feeling I had after the events of this last week, which is feeling like we live in an alternate reality. Anyone else feel that way? So alternate realities are actually all the craze in pop culture right now. There's a very popular show on Amazon that's streaming, and it's called The Man in the High Castle. Has anyone ever heard of that show? So I'm going to explain it to you. It's in its third season, and it's based on reality, but an alternate reality. In this reality, the Allies during World War II were not successful. They lost. In this reality, the U.S., the United States of America, is called the American Reich, and the Nazi ideology spreads to America. The government isn't German, actually. It's American. They speak English with no accent, and they have an American flag with a swastika. That's the reality. The Nazis didn't actually have to send an invasion force. They had people waiting there to embrace their views. And for those who remember history, that's not so far off. In 1939, Madison Square Garden was full for a Nazi rally, 22,000 people with a swastika there. As you can imagine, in this reality, the Jews do not fare well, the Jews of America. Philip Roth, the famous, the great Jewish American novelist, also wrote a book about an alternate reality. It came out in 2004, I think, and it was called The Plot Against America, for those who read it. And in this alternate reality, Charles Lindbergh, the American hero, beats FDR in the 1940 election, becomes president, makes peace with Hitler, and anti-Semitism runs rampant in the United States. In a different reality, I would have given a sermon last week on the power of visiting the sick, Bikur Cholim. And I would have been asking people to show up to our Sunshine Committee meeting, which was supposed to be on Tuesday night of this week. Instead, I scrapped my sermon and informed our congregation of the horrific terrorist attack in the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill in Pittsburgh. The worst in the history of the United States of America against the Jewish people. In an alternate reality, I wouldn't be making statements asking people to show up to shul as an act of defiance, and I wouldn't be interviewed by news stations on my reaction to an anti-Semitic incident at this synagogue 30 minutes before the shooting. In an alternate reality, 2,400 people would not have gathered at the B'nai Torah congregation for a vigil in response to the worst terror attack on Jews in American history this Tuesday. In an alternate reality, I would not have had a conversation I never thought I'd have with my 95-year-old grandfather, a Holocaust survivor, where he gave me advice on how to handle Nazis and bigots, because he went through it himself. But he never thought he'd have to share those words with his grandson in America. In an alternate reality, the rabbi of Tree of Life Synagogue would be giving a normal sermon in his sanctuary today. I would not have had to speak at vigils and perform 7 funerals leading up to Shabbat. In the pews in the back of the room, in Tree of Life Synagogue, in an alternate reality, Irving Younger, 69 years old, would be helping a person who came late to shul to find his or her seat. Melvin Wax, 88, would have been sitting in his seat, the first to arrive at shul in the evening and in the morning. 97-year-old Rose Mallinger, known to her family simply as Bubby, would probably be in the pews, maybe not praying, but thinking about a new latke recipe that she would share at her family's Hanukkah party. She was known as a great cook. Bernice Bernice and Sylvan Simon, married couple, 84 and 86. They would be sitting in their regular seats, staring at the bima, the same bima they were married on 60 years ago. Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz, a member of Dor Chadash, one of the congregations that met in Tree of Life, would be sitting in shul, maybe surrounded by his patients who loved him because he was such an incredible physician and human being. He didn't have any kids, and he stood up for every Kaddish because he said, I hope that someone will stand up for Kaddish for me. Joyce Feinberg, a 75-year-old widow, would have been lighting up the sanctuary with her caring personality. And Dr. Richard Gottfried, a dentist who often came to shul, would be sitting in his seat, probably warning kids not to eat too much candy on Halloween and handing out toothbrushes. Daniel Stein, a 71-year-old husband, father, and grandfather, would be sitting in his seat, showing pictures of his new grandson to everyone around him, and probably making dry jokes during the rabbi's sermon. And brothers Cecil and David Rosenthal, two intellectually disabled Jewish adults who came every Shabbat. They were known as the mayors of Squirrel Hill. They would be sitting next to each other as they did every Shabbat, smiling and handing out sigurim to every person who came into the sanctuary of the Tree of Life. A minyan plus one would likely be in shul today, this Shabbat, right now, at Tree of Life Synagogue. In an alternate reality, I actually wouldn't be standing here today because I'm supposed to be at my cousin's wedding in New York City. And maybe some of you wouldn't be here today. We showed up for Shabbat, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up today and last night for those who came. I don't know if it's an act of defiance or bravery or Jewish pride, or maybe it's all of the above, and maybe it's something else. And I have to just share that during the Amidah, as I turned around, tears came to my eyes looking at all of you who came in, because I didn't see you come in. And I turned around and the sanctuary was full. And my greatest fear is that people are not going to come to shul. But you're here. You know, going to synagogue on a weekly basis, having Shabbat meals for family and friends, is part of our routine, our family's routine. But it seems that these vigils and these sermons that I have to give during these horrible, horrific occasions have become actually part of my routine. One of our chaverim, our congregants, that's what we call them here at Shari Kodesh, she wrote me the following I want to share with you. She says, some routines are comforting. The way my dog greets us at the door every time we enter. Watching Jeopardy every night beside my husband. The candles, Kiddush, hand washing, challah rituals at our Shabbat dinner table. Some routines are exhausting. Tragedy strikes, social media goes crazy. A vigil, a fundraiser, heartbreaking stories of the people whose lives were cut short, and heartwarming stories of the heroes. Until the next one, and the next one, and the next one. A cycle, a routine that is so fatiguing it makes me numb. Boston strong, Orlando strong, Charleston strong, Parkland strong, Pittsburgh strong. We talked about going to the vigil tonight. She wrote this to me on Tuesday. To be part of the community, to see comfort together, yet a piece of me was hesitant, which I couldn't quite place. Until I realized that this painful routine, the knowing what will be said before we even arrive, feels like the opposite of comfort. So I will see you with our community on Shabbat, participating in the morning service, which is familiar and reassuring and uplifting in its simple age-old routine. And they're here today. Today, I stand with you because you are my community and you are my family. I'm here because I know you're searching for answers. And although I'm just as lost as you are, yes, rabbis, we're people too, I hope I can be of help just a little bit. And I'm here to tell you something important. This is our reality. But we have a choice. And I actually have some hope despite the events of the week. Whenever I'm lost, I turn to the Torah. And so I want to share with you some gleanings from this week's Torah portion, Chayei Sarah. In this Torah portion, we experience, you all read about the deaths of Abraham and Sarah. Sarah's death is a big focus of the parasha. That's how it begins. It's named after her, Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah. But I want to focus on the death of Abraham, our father. And it's because it doesn't get much attention. Here is what it says about Abraham's death. Vayikva vayamos Abraham v'seiva tova zaken v'saveya v'yasef el amav. And Abraham breathed his last, dying at a good ripe age, old and contented, and he was gathered to his kin. Vayikberu oto Yitzchak veYishmael banav el ma'arat hamachpelah el sdei Ephron ben Sohar Hachiti asher al pnei Mamre. His sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite, facing Mamre. So there's something that we have to pay attention to that's quite amazing here and quite remarkable, because Abraham isn't just buried by Isaac. He is buried also by Ishmael, his other son, the son whom he banished, who he hasn't seen for many years, and who Isaac hasn't seen for many years. And despite their differences and past fights, they come together at this moment. I read the following by a writer named Sally Neff about this incident in our parsha that I want to share with you. This is what she wrote. And she asked this question: why did Isaac and Ishmael come together to bury their father? Why does the Torah tell us this? Did they still have brotherly affection for each other, despite their history of conflict? Perhaps they had repaired their relationship with Abraham and with each other to some degree. Possibly it was a mere sense of family and religious obligation that brought the two men to their father's graveside. However, I would like to imagine that their father's death gave them the opportunity to start healing their emotional wounds. Most likely, they never became best friends, but that doesn't matter. They were able to reunite in that time of grief and support one another, to be family for each other. When the Israelites received the Torah, they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do, and then we will listen. We learn from this that when it comes to doing mitzvot, sometimes we have to engage in the right action before we can understand its meaning. If Isaac and Ishmael, those classic enemies, could come together in a time of crisis, so should we in our families. So should we in our family of Judaism. So should we in our family of humanity. This is our reality. A reality where people come together to heal. A reality where we stand up for each other in the face of anti-Semitism and bigotry, even in our darkest times, which I think we're experiencing now. 80 years ago, on November 9th and 10th, which is actually next Shabbat, we commemorate what happened in 1938 in Germany. German Jews experienced a pogrom. Homes were burglarized, synagogues burglarized, Jews murdered, businesses vandalized. It was a night of broken glass called Kristallnacht. In Germany, the state was complicit in the attack. They let it happen. They encouraged it. They planned it. But in our reality, the police, rather than stepping aside and letting the violence and anti-Semitism occur, were the first ones on the scene to help apprehend this terrorist, this shooter. And they immediately protected synagogues across the country, including in our counties, Palm Beach County, where the sheriff sent a police car to every single synagogue, including ours. In this reality, I've been moved and taken aback by the support that I've been receiving from people of all faiths, and those from no faith at all. At the Interfaith Vigil at B'nai Torah congregation, organized only 3 days, 2,400 people of all faiths were in attendance. And I know many of you were in the room. Unfortunately, I couldn't see you. I needed binoculars. We heard from a priest, an imam, a Mormon leader who said with one strong voice, "We stand with you, and tonight all of us are Jews." The Muslim community in Pittsburgh raised close to $200,000 for the victims of the shooting. The executive director of the Islamic Center of Pittsburgh said the following. He said, "If you need more money, let us know. If it's people outside your next service to protect you, let us know, we'll be there. If you need someone in the grocery store because you don't feel safe, let us know, we'll be there." But it's not just these speeches in public. For me, it's been every day. So I want to share with you, because I can share so many stories, just two experiences I had. And I'm sure that all of you can share some experiences that you had with some of your friends from other faiths. Here's a letter I received from Keith Cutchow, who's the director of the Gleaning Program for Cross Ministries, which is a group that we come together at different faiths, and we go into the fields, we pick fruits and vegetables and feed food insecure of Palm Beach County. He said, "Rabbi Bound, ever since the tragic events of Sunday, I have been thinking about the congregations that I have had the privilege to serve with gleanings in the field. I hope you know that we stand with you, and that having our Jewish brothers and sisters serve with us is a joy and an honor. If there's anything that I can do to make that support more tangible, please let me know, and know that you and your community are in my thoughts and prayers." And this week I thought to myself, do I wear my kippah out or not? That hesitation lasted about 2 seconds. And I continued to wear it. Now, for those who don't know, we've been in a long process of building an addition to our home. It's been about 2 years. We have failed many, many inspections. And the same inspector comes to us. It's the same guy. And he came out this week, and in his Palm Beach County car, and he opened the door of his car, and he saw that I was wearing a kippah. And he actually took a deep breath, and he said to me, "I want to let you know that I'm heartbroken about what happened in Pittsburgh this week." And we actually had a long talk. Something we had never done before, because usually it's you failed. And I want to just break the suspense. I wish I could tell you we passed. So it doesn't have a happy ending. But he's Catholic. And his mother, he grew up in New York, and his mother ran a wig store. She owned a wig store in New York. And as you can know, she had a lot of Jewish clients. And he talked to me about the influence that they had on him, his brother, and his mother and father. They taught her about values, Jewish values. They supported them financially. He went to bar mitzvahs growing up. And his Jewish friends came to his confirmation in church. And he told this story, which is amazing. He said, "My mother used to light a Hanukkah menorah every year. One candle, following kind of Jewish law, one candle after another." And he went on to say, "I've been silent for far too long. I've been silent in the face of this bigotry and hatred, but I'm not going to be silent anymore. And I want to let you know something. There are millions of people who have been silent, who are standing with you, and we will make our voices heard. And also, I'm donating to Hyatt." How did Isaac, getting back to our parsha, how did Isaac heal after the death of his mother Sarah? Because that's what we read about in this week's parsha. It began with engaging in a new relationship, a relationship built on love. V'yavia Yitzchak ho'aleha Sarah imo v'yikach et Rivka v'tehilo leisha v'yaveha v'yanachem Yitzchak acharei imo. Isaac then brought Rebekah into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he took Rebekah as his wife. Isaac loved her, and thus found comfort after his mother's death. And this is ultimately what our legacy is. The Catholic inspector told me, he said, this may sound crazy, But I truly believe that when I am kind to others, as my mother taught me and as those Jewish people taught my mother, especially those who are different from me, a part of my mom lives on. I looked at him and I said, that's not crazy because it's true. We must build a world of love. That is our task. That is how Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Rebekah and Ishmael and Hagar and all of our ancestors of the 11 Jews killed in their synagogue will live on in this world. And here's where, as a rabbi, I challenge you. We must build a world from love. But how do we do it? What does that mean? Love in Hebrew is the word ahava. That's what we see here, actually. It's one of the few times it's mentioned in the Tanakh. Ahava means to give and to take, back and forth. Dealing with real issues in a civil way, coming together, that is how we build. And we can begin building by voting on Tuesday. We can begin building by demanding an end to the scourge of gun violence in this country. We can begin building by toning down the rhetoric of hatred and bigotry and words that trigger dangerous rhetoric. Rabbi Chazan Jeffrey Myers, the spiritual leader of Tree of Life congregation, spoke I don't know how he did it, but he spoke eloquently when he laid it on the line for his community, political leaders, and everyone in attendance at the first vigil in Pittsburgh on Sunday evening. He said, it starts with us. And to the political leaders, he said, it starts with you as our leaders. Stop the words of hate. We must demand this of our leaders. We can begin by standing up for others, just as people have stood by us. 11 Jews were murdered by an anti-Semite last Shabbat. That's what he killed them because they were Jewish. And a day later, Vicki Lee Jones, 67, and Maurice Stallard, 69, both black people, were murdered in a Kroger supermarket after a shooter tried to get into the black church but couldn't get in. And he had to find some black people. So he found them. And he was reporting that he yelled racist remarks during the attack. Not only must we stand up against anti-Semitism, but all forms of hatred and bigotry, because we are in this fight together. We can continue to build a world of love through our acts of loving kindness, gemilut chasadim, like the Jewish doctors and nurses who treated the terrorists last Shabbat, as I spoke about earlier. This is our reality, because in our reality, the Nazis lost. We defeated them. And we will make sure that they continue to lose, because the future is in our hands. We will build this world from love, the words that we're about to sing on those little sheets of paper. And our nation, Am Yisrael, will not only live, but we will change this world for the better. This is our reality, and we will build it with every interaction, with every act of loving kindness, of gemilut chasadim, and justice. So let's